It is another cold day here in Korea, and today we have joined a tour. So today we've come to the DMZ, which for those of you that don't know is essentially a buffer zone between South and North Korea, and it's also the furthest in the South Korean border that someone can go before they enter North Korea, who's not essentially the military or whatever. So we're just walking around. We've come to our first stop, which is essentially where life used to connect between the South and the North. So here you can see the train that used to run to the south, and it's quite an eerie place because they have essentially, it's a bit of a ghost town, but the buffer zone is about 2 kilometers long, I think, between here and the border. And over here there's a lot of memorial statues and a lot of things that have been created to symbolize the battle and the separation between the North and the South. We've got a couple of stops along the tour, but this is the first one. It is a very cold morning, and the area that I'm in right now, I guess, is the United States, what would you say? So like the United States appreciation section, where they have like this statue of the US president at the time that helped them during the war with North Korea. North Korea invaded South Korea, and the UN and America and etc. came to help so that North Korea didn't invade the South. And because of that, they have this memorial section just thanking the US for helping to liberate the South from the North. And then there's this theme park that was really bizarre because it's completely empty, and the tour guide said essentially if the North, they created it for the North, so if the North ever invaded South Korea, this is what they would see. And I found that so, I need to confirm and double check this story, but I'm gonna show you guys in a bit. But here is some of the train tracks that essentially used to run all the way across, and where we're going to be walking to, there is an actual train there with a whole bunch of bullet holes, essentially from the US and China, is what the tour guide said. It's actually peaceful here, but I think it's because I've come through quite a quiet area, and there's a shop right around the corner that we just went into. You're not allowed to take videos in there, but in that shop you're able to buy North Korean currency. So just to give you guys a look at how it looks, so this is one side and this is another. There was a note with Kim Jong-il's face on it, but that was like triple the price, so I didn't get that one, and it's just a bit of a souvenir. One thing that I guess one thing maybe to discuss here is, I was telling my sister that we're coming on this tour and saying we're going to the border, blah blah blah, and she was like, that's quite a disgusting thing to do, or quite a morbid thing to do. When I asked her why, and she said because it's essentially human zooing. Like, we're going to a border and we're going somewhere where people have suffered and they are suffering. And I was a bit like, okay, completely understand, and maybe she's right. That got me thinking yesterday that maybe this tour is a bit like that. Like, we're heading to somewhere where people have defected from and where there is suffering, but also none of us have been to North Korea, so we don't really know what happens there, but there are first-hand accounts of people that have left. So I will leave that to sit with you guys, but I thought that was quite interesting when she said that, and it made me see this tour completely differently. Like, I hadn't even thought of that, to be honest. So we're getting to a bit more of the main bit. You can see like different tours and stuff that have just arrived. We got here quite early, and this is the like reunification monument of essentially people that came back together or were reunited after the war broke out. And then here is, I think, the train track that I mentioned earlier. Like this, I think, might be it, of the last bit of the original train track. You can see here, I love that they put hats on the kids, all those statues. Okay. Oh, and then this was the Freedom Bridge, essentially. So the story behind this bridge here is that when the hostages were released from the north, I'll move away from this tour guide, but when they were released from the north, the prisoners shouted freedom, and then it was just named the Freedom Bridge post that. But that is where the swap happened between prisoners. Oh God, I've just joined a tour. Okay. Yep, there's a straight tour happening behind me, so let's let them pass. Okay, so I have stepped away from that tour guide because she had a microphone that was essentially a siren. But here is one of the trains that used to run on the line. And this one is a train that used to run that you can see all of the bullet holes. I mean, there must be thousands of bullet holes across the whole train. If you look at the front here, you can see all of the bullet holes that run all across the train. And it's quite enormous. I'm not sure if that's being captured on the video, but it's huge. You can see it here. We have made it up to an observation deck, which I don't think a lot of people knew you could come up here. But I'm gonna show you guys the sights that we can see on this observation deck. He did point to North Korea being in that direction, so that direction over there. Where's the train? Yeah, okay, we were there when he pointed this way. So North Korea is somewhere over there in the distance. I have no idea what that zip line is, by the way, where that goes, what it's about, why it exists. So that's something else that's going to be in my research as well, because that's not a part of the tour. You can see the rooftop. So if you do come on this DMZ tour, where they bring you, you'll know from that train track actually where I just came from. There is a building right in the centre, and at the centre of that building you can come up and you can see we've basically got the whole place to ourselves, because it's not very, like, our tour guide didn't tell us anything about it. He didn't say there's a rooftop, go up there. We basically just stumbled upon it. So if you do end up coming and you are here, then just know that this is an option. But from here you can see that fun fair park thing, so I'm going to show you. It's literally right there, and like I said, it's the most bizarre thing because it's just a playground, like a fun fair, an amusement park right in the middle of this place. And what's even weirder is that it looks new. It doesn't look like it's something from the 50s or the 40s. It looks like it's been built at least within the last 15 to 10 years, which sounds like a long time, but considering how long the North and South have been separated, it's not that long. But the observation up here, at least you can see, you can pretty much hit all of the different monuments and all of the different things they bring you here for in one go. We are thin on time, so I'm going to take a quick 360 and then head back down to our bus. So this was stop number 1, and I think we have 4 stops today, and we booked the suspension bridge one, so we've got the suspension bridge at the end. So we're heading down now to get on the bus. So I'll see you guys either on the bus or at stop number 2. So we have finished the second stop, and unfortunately we weren't able to film there. So just to give you an idea of what the second stop on the tour is, it's essentially the observation deck where you can have a look and see across to North Korea. So when the bus parked, it's strictly a no filming zone all the way up until the observation deck. Now I have seen some videos of people that have filmed the actual observation deck and managed to capture some footage, but I wasn't going to risk it. I'm not being sent to a Korean prison, absolutely not. So we did actually manage to get a glimpse of the North Korean flag and see into North Korea, so that was really exciting. And now we're at the third stop, which is, so the third stop is tunnels. So North Korea built some tunnels into South Korea, and they were found, I think it was like 1970s, and then now it's essentially part of this tour, these tunnels that were built for troops to invade South Korea, and that was after the peace treaty was signed. So you can walk all the way down into the tunnels and essentially walk through and just have a look and see how they were built and see how they look. And there's multiple tunnels, but this one is open for the public. So we are wrapping up, we're gonna go down the tunnels and then wrap up this part of the tour, and I think there's one more bit left, or two actually. I think we're going to a village and then we are going to the suspension bridge. But just one more note is that you actually can't film in the tunnels. So the buildings for the tunnel, or the building for the tunnel, is right there. So that tiny building there. So right through there and right underneath is where the tunnel runs from. But up to that door there are lockers, and then once you enter you have to put your devices, cameras, phones, everything into the lockers and then go down without cameras. So you're not allowed to film there. It's essentially, and everything there is under some kind of confidentiality. You're not allowed to film, there's not allowed to be footage. So again, I'm not going to be filming. And this is the DMZ sign behind me that you sometimes see in pictures of this area. So this is within the DMZ, so the demilitarized zone. So we're about to head into the tunnels now and then see if we can make it down there. It's meant to be a bit of a trek and a bit of a walk, so I'm going to see if we're able to do that with the kids. So we have finished at the tunnels, and my god, it was steep as anything. It was quite a trek. Us and the kids went down. I got about 100 meters into the actual tunnel itself, and then I had to just U-turn out of there because it was quite tight and I'm quite claustrophobic. So the fact that I even made it down there is absolutely phenomenal and beyond anything that I expected to do. We have stopped at a village, not very villagey, but this is part of the areas where our guide was explaining that within the DMZ there is a village and some people live there. And two interesting facts about the people that live here is, one, they don't have to pay any tax, and then two is that they don't have to do military service. So in South Korea, every single male has to do mandatory military service. So right now the current length of service is about 18 months. So you'll see a lot of like K-drama stars, K-pop stars have to like take a break and do their service and then go back to being famous or whatever. I wonder how that works. I wonder if they're just walking around famous as anything, just standing at security checkpoints for DMZ tours or whatever. But every single male, rich, poor, famous or not, has to do service. There's no exceptions. So within the village in the DMZ, no tax and no military service. And the reason that they keep it running is, I guess, as a first line of defense if there was ever an invasion. And I don't know the other reasons actually, but I'm guessing that's one of them. This is the closest village to the border of North Korea. So I think we're almost wrapping up the DMZ part of the tour. So as a recap, we went to the observation deck. We also went to the initial area, so the furthest point that you could get before you enter North Korea, and then we did the tunnels, so the North Korean dug tunnels, Now we have stopped off at the village, and also people are having lunch and stuff. And then the last bit is the suspension bridge. So with the suspension bridge, there are 2 tours that you can get, one with and then one without. The one with, from what I can tell, if you're not too fussed and you don't want to spend the extra money, I don't think you need to do the suspension bridge. I think you can just do the other tour, because the suspension bridge actually isn't part of the DMZ, but it is part of like their culture, and I guess we'll learn more about that. We are wrapping up here, and then it's about a 50-minute drive to the suspension bridge, so let's head out. And it started to get a lot warmer now, so it's not as cold as it was before, but let's head to the suspension bridge and see what that's about.
And when you look to the right, you see one huge tree. That is our national flower, Rose of Sharon. But that is not the real tree, it's artificial one. I hope you took a good picture. And now, finally, we're on the way to the suspension.
We have come to our final stop of the day, the suspension bridge, and the views here are amazing. So this has nothing to do with the actual DMZ tour. I think they're trying to bring more tourists out here to help boost the economy, it sounded like from what our tour guide said on the bus. But it's really beautiful out here, and we walked on the suspension bridge, which, like I said, pretty much has nothing to do with the demilitarized zone, but it's a very, very pretty lake, and the suspension bridge is over the lake, so it's about 200 odd meters from beginning to end, and you can see that it stretches all the way down. So here is the beginning, and then it stretches all the way down by 200 meters, and the end is right there. So we just walked up and down. It was a really cute walk actually, and the view from here is magical. I'm really glad that we actually came in the winter, because it's really pretty. I imagine in the summer it's not as beautiful as it is now, because there's so many different colours. You've got the brown, you've got the green, and then you've got the white frost as well from where it's so cold. So it's really, really pretty. I think that pretty much wraps up our day. So that is the DMZ tour here in South Korea. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and let me know if this is something that you would consider doing, or if, like my sister, you think it's quite morbid.